I've been working with Nikon super telephotos for the last 10 years. They're essential for the work I do. When they reached out about their new 500mm f/5.6 prime lens, I did not expect this. An ultralight and compact super telephoto. My job takes me to some pretty remote places, and the weight of my backpack is always something I have to take into consideration. But I'll choose heavy over lack of performance any day, so I really wanted to see what this lens could do. I couldn't think of a better testing ground for performance than photographing birds. Photographing animals is a lot like photographing people. Body language and gesture are essential. I'm not interested in photographing them perched. In flight is where the action is. But it's a patience game, and when the moment presents itself, the last thing you want to do is miss the shot. This lens is ridiculously easy to handhold, and Nikon's technology makes it not only ultra light, but razor sharp. If I needed an extra focal length boost, the ability to switch to DX mode in my Nikon D850 changes my focal length to roughly 750mm, without decreasing the speed of the lens. The last thing I want to worry about is durability. The dust and drip resistant build keeps me confident that the lens will hold up in hard outdoor conditions. The autofocus locked on with precision, and the VR allowed me to easily shoot in low light. This lens nailed it in every category. It's something I want in my backpack, anywhere I go.
Hi, my name is Atsushi Suzuki, and I am an optical engineer and technical liaison at Nikon. I would like to talk about the new Nikon Z mount and explain from a technical point what makes it so special. Nikon is well known for great lenses. Our company vision is to unlock the future with the power of light. We believe this new mount will help us achieve that vision. The introduction of the Z mount is very special because it combines so much experience and knowledge from many engineers and designers over the last 100 years. The new Z mount was developed for the new Nikon mirrorless camera and lenses, and it possesses huge potential in optical design. This mount design has two important factors. First, it has a 60mm flange back distance. Second, it has a 55mm inner mount diameter. These two dimensions give the new mount great advantages, such as the ability to support f1.2 and even f.95 aperture lens designs. I'd like to explain how designers decided on this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Nikon studio here in Melville and Nikon Live Unscripted. We are live here with an unscripted show talking to talented photographers and filmmakers, and we have the lovely Dixie Dixon with us today. Before we get into Dixie, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's going on here at Nikon, especially for you video people that are so creative with your productions. We have a Follow Your Passion creative contest for video for you to join. You can win up to $25,000. And a filmmaker's kit, all kinds of prizes. So if you are creative and you love video, make sure you check that out at followyourpassion.com. We also have the Trade Up to Z program going on again. So if you have any camera that is working that you want to trade in for a great value to get into the Z mirrorless system, you can do that and gain a great benefit of getting into mirrorless if that's where you want to go. Now this is the second episode of Unscripted. We had an episode last month with Joe McNally, a great 30-minute talk about his career and things that went on in his business. So you can go back and check that out as many times as you want. But we are here today with a fascinating fashion photographer and filmmaker, Ms. Dixie Dixon. Welcome to Unscripted.
Hello. Thank you. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, we work together a lot, so we'll talk about our experiences as we go. We're going to talk about your career, some of the things you've done.
Yeah.
Hopefully talk about your book and the book that you came out with last year. You've flown in from Fort Worth, Texas?
I did.
Yeah, we
Flew in last night.
were there together last week, and when you were promoting this, I have to ask this question just to get it started. You have labeled yourself a self-proclaimed nerd.
Absolutely.
What do you mean by that? Everybody looking at you, you're a nerd? Well, that's not bad.
Yes.
But why do you call yourself a nerd?
I'm definitely a nerd. I grew up incredibly shy and very introverted. Believe it or not, I'm very much an introvert.
I wouldn't know that, but I've known you for years.
Yeah, so doing photography and getting out of my comfort zone has been a big part of my career. So being that introvert, basically being an introvert is where do you gain your most energy? And for me, it's through self-reflection and through being alone. So when I'm around people, I get this real burst of energy, but it's definitely been a cool process being in photography and getting out of my comfort zone.
So you were shy growing up.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
very
funny
shy.
because ambassadors like Ron McGill, I've learned too. He was very shy
Yes.
growing up, and some of our most outspoken, exciting ambassadors are now are out there. And we've worked together. I remember the very first time you spoke for us at CES.
Oh my goodness,
and how we got
yes.
through that, and you have become one of the most remarkable speakers I've ever seen up on stage.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about how you broke into photography. I mean, some people know you, some people don't.
Yeah.
But where did it all get started for you, and where did the creative juices start to flow, and you said to yourself, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah, for me it was when I made the cover of the yearbook. One of my images, I was in yearbook staff. To
I was
get out
on the
of
yearbook staff.
You were too?
Yes,
I love
yeah,
it.
I was.
Yes. So being on the yearbook staff was for me felt rebellious because I get to go to all the events and photograph them, and I sort of had a reason to be there,
Right.
as opposed to just going like as this introvert into the situation. So for me, it was a lot of getting out of that comfort zone. And when I ended up making the cover, for me that was like the moment. No longer was I gonna be a doctor, a lawyer, pediatrician, anything remotely predictable. I was
Were these
gonna
things the
go
things
for
you were
photography.
thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I used to want to be a veterinarian, and then I realized that I was very allergic to dogs and animals. So yeah, it's been a really cool process, and it took a long time to break in. photography is a tough business.
It
and
is.
It takes a lot of true grit to get into it.
It is.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you said. It's a business, and a lot of people. It's an art form too for many, especially those that are enthusiastic about taking pictures. But if you want to sustain and run a business, we're going to talk about that path for you. I know your first camera was a Nikon FG, so you have been a Nikon photographer and filmmaker from day one.
I have.
We're proud to hear that, and thank you for that. We all appreciate that. But talk a little bit about how, you started off photography. I personally know you had a little bit of background in wedding photography.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you transitioned into fashion. So tell me, why not weddings and why fashion?
I was the worst wedding photographer ever. And I remember I missed the kiss at like 3 weddings in a row. I was
I guess that's a tough shot to miss, huh?
It is a tough shot to miss. And I'm a very slow shooter. I don't shoot quickly. I like to be able to set up the situation and craft the perfect lens with the camera and the whole scenario. So weddings were just too fast for me. Like, because I give so much.
It's a high pressure thing. I mean, I give a lot of credit to wedding photographers.
Yeah.
I don't like to shoot weddings myself because there are moments if you miss, you just don't get those back. Like the kiss, I guess you would say.
Exactly, because you have to be a product photographer, you have to be a portrait photographer, be able to post families, all in this really fast situation.
Right.
And I just found that for me, it was just too fast.
Why fashion though? How do you move into fashion?
So what was so cool is I got to study abroad with a world-renowned fashion photographer my junior year of college, and that is when I fell in love with fashion photography and how to bring together a team and create a concept. And in order to bring that concept to life and bringing that brand's vision to life, and that's what I really found my passion was, is concepting, creating the perfect scenario for everything to happen organically.
Right.
And that's why fashion really speaks to my soul.
So you saw that kind of photography online or in magazines, you said that's what I've got to do. And so you went to study abroad, you went on an internship there?
I did. I was in London for 3 months.
I think it's a very cool fact though too that you were an intern for one of our other ambassadors, Mr. Matthew Jordan Smith. Talk a little bit about how you connected with Matthew and how do you get to that? I'm sure a lot of people out there that are trying to grow is how do you work with other photographers? How did you approach him?
Yeah, so one thing that I did in college that I thought was really helpful is a business teacher told me to join all of the trade organizations within the industry you're interested in pursuing. So I went home and I Googled photography trade organizations, and all of them come up like WPI, PPA, APA. So I joined all of them and started entering these contests. And so one of my images won a contest, so I got to go to Imaging USA for free. And then I won another contest to go to WPI for free and attend and like network with all these photographers.
Right, which is a great place to network for sure in that business.
So you get to really kind of learn about photography.
So you ignored the wedding part of that and you stuck to the portrait part of that.
I did, exactly.
How to catch the kiss photo. How to make the kiss photo.
Exactly. So I literally waited in line after Matthew was speaking at a PPA event, and I waited in line for an hour to talk to him, and I asked him if I could assist him next time I'm in LA. And believe it or not, I called him up when I was in town, and I got to assist him on some really beautiful shoots that he did, and that was one of my very first internships.
And the one thing that attracts me to Matthew, outside of he's a gorgeous man, thank you, Matthew,
he is beautiful.
Is the fact that he's just got such a great demeanor, and I see that you have that same thing going on, and I think when you bring that kind of demeanor and relaxed atmosphere and that great, bubbly, energetic atmosphere, it affects everybody on set, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I'm so big on the energy on set. If anyone's bringing any kind of negative energy, I'll bring them outside and have a talk with them. Because the truth is, it translates into the images. You can see instantly if the model was comfortable in the image through her eyes.
So I have to ask this because everybody's going to ask this, but you have clearly labeled yourself DixieDixon.com. You have a brand, right? You have a style.
Yes.
I have been one of the fortunate people, amongst others, if they do check out your Facebook page or Instagram page. Do you ever not wear a hat? I mean, for those people that think you never take that hat off.
This is unscripted. I guess I should have taken my hat off.
And you are an ambassador for a hat company as well. Not only a Nikon ambassador, but a hat company. But I want to definitely delve into, especially for those that are starting a business, how do you brand yourself? What are the things that you've done to continue the brand? Have you changed it along the way? And address the fact that I believe, who we would affectionately call Mama Bear, your mom, had a lot to do with your styling and branding. Let's talk about that a little bit.
She did, yes. So the two biggest things with branding is authenticity and consistency. So you need to showcase your personality and your brand from the way that you shoot and your style of shooting to also how you show up on set, what's your style like, because all these things create this experience for your brand. And if you're consistent in that, people are going to start to notice your brand in a bigger way than just your normal run-of-the-mill photography company. So it becomes this sort of organic process, and the more that you get to know yourself as a person and a photographer, the more you're going to be able to express your brand within your imagery and your the way you say things, the way you send emails, all of these things go into the brand. So it's definitely been a process. Mama Bear was a huge
And
part
Mama
of
Bear,
that.
I'm sure Mama Bear, you may be tuning in right now. We miss you. I just saw her last week. And your dad, Danny. Both great influences to you?
Oh, absolutely. My
your
dad had
career?
a big background in photography and gave me my first camera. And Mama
I
Bear,
saw his artillery of equipment. I've seen his lineup of equipment. He's got
yes,
a nice,
he's got
nice
a
set of
great
equipment.
setup.
Right.
And then as far as the hat thing, I always love wearing hats. I'm big on costumes, and you know, I just thought, you know what, I feel way more creative wearing a hat. So my mom was like, you should just wear a hat every time you shoot. It kind of be a part of your brand. So it's become this thing. And now I'm working with hat lines and all these different things.
Well, I
It's
do
been a
want
fun
everybody to know
adventure.
that when I have actually been picked up by Dixie several times, you were not wearing a hat.
That's true.
So
I do take it off
I have
sometimes.
seen the Dixie with the
I
hat,
don't
the
sleep with
Dixie
it on.
without, and it's just as good. And,
Yes.
and so it's great. And have you changed from the beginning? I mean, did you start off going in a certain direction with your brand and then shift it, or how did you progress? How do you grow that?
Well, you know, I started out, it definitely has evolved. I remember I used to call myself the photographer next door, and I've evolved from that.
Right.
And now I've just gone with my name because I think that sort of showcases who I am as a photographer and a person. My brand's very friendly, it's happy, it's what, as a person and a brand, what my goal is on a shoot is to everyone to leave set a more confident person than when they arrived. And that's really my biggest
That's
thing.
awesome.
And that's what I love, photography and that connection, and bringing out the best in people is really my biggest passion.
And speaking of connection, you have a way of connecting with people when you first meet them.
Yeah.
And as you were running around the Nikon building here, and I toured you around our new facility here.
Yes, it's amazing.
You did something with almost everybody. How do you connect with
Yes.
somebody?
I'm a hugger. I'm a big hugger. And I feel like that creates that instant connection. And so I think I have hugged everyone in the building.
Did anybody back off? Did anybody
No,
feel like?
nobody gave me the awkward
Do you
side
get
hug.
that
It
on
was
set
great.
though? Do you have anybody that
Sometimes.
would back off, and then now do you just avoid them for the rest of the shoot, or do you look for opportunities to try to connect with them?
Oh, I definitely try to connect.
Try to sell yourself. Try to sell the moment. Try to sell that happiness.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think having the music flowing on set, and then also doing a lot of research before every job I do. So I try to get to know not only the models but the client as well. And then I try to ask them questions about themselves. That's really the easiest way to get people out of their comfort zone and getting into that connection is really ask them questions.
So you have created this brand, Dixie
Yeah.
Dixon, DixieDixon.com. Again, I could
Yes.
recite your message. I can recite, how you present yourself.
Yeah.
What advice to anybody that's looking to brand themselves? What do they target? What do they look for? How do they know what's them?
Yeah. It just really comes through a lot of shooting. I mean, your style isn't something that you have to go out and find. It's already within you. So the more that you can get to know yourself as a person and what your interests are and how you best connect with people, you really got to find your own. And that really just comes through experience and through shooting a ton
Right.
and then finding your niche. So I think the best way is just to keep shooting. I mean, just shoot constantly, always be shooting, and you're going to find that style organically unfold.
And I have to say that you do. For those of you out there, I've been on, what have we been on, about a dozen shoots together, if not more?
Yes.
And I've watched you go into your twilight after the shoot was over for an hour.
Yeah.
And we're like, where's Dixie? Well, Dixie grabbed the model. She's back outside by the pool. And we're all like, we got to catch flights. But you don't stop, do you?
I don't stop.
How do you know when to stop then?
Ooh, Joe McNally is always saying the moment it clicks.
Right.
I always know when I got that shot, and I always know when I can push it that much further to get an even more amazing shot. So if I haven't felt like that I've gotten it, I don't feel it in my soul and in my heart, I'm still shooting.
Yeah,
Yep.
we talked about that in Joe's episode a little
Yeah.
bit about The Moment It Clicks, which was the title of his first book, and we'll get to your
Right.
book in just a little bit. But As you've evolved, talk about a little bit of the fears for you. You can't just walk in. It's not a party every time, right?
No, absolutely.
I mean, everybody sees the end result, and we've always said this, that the best photographers in the world don't show the bad stuff. Rich Clarkson of Sports Illustrated used to use that at his workshop all the time.
Absolutely.
And so I give credit to Rich. But it couldn't have been an easy path the entire time. Were there any stumbling blocks, anything you had to run into, things you had to overcome?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks is the fact that it takes so long to break into the niche of photography that you love. So I was shooting everything when I was starting out, from weddings to portraits to product photography, but I really wanted to just be shooting this fashion lifestyle. So for me, the big lesson was to differentiate and separate them. So for instance, I started out having a wedding and portrait website separate from my fashion website. So I would send my fashion website out to fashion clients, and I would only send the wedding and portrait off to the wedding and portrait client. So that separation
Hoping
is
that
really
nobody
important.
from the wedding side would ever say yes, right?
Yeah, and I'm raising the prices. But yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. You really have to show what it is that you want to shoot. And that's really the name of the game in this industry. So you got to go out and shoot a ton of personal work so that you can enable to show that, because people are going to hire you for what you do best. So you have to show what you do best. So you have to build that portfolio.
One of the highlights, I think, and would you consider this a defining moment, was you did a TV show early on, right? And shooting.
I did.
So talk a little bit about how that happened. I mean, did it come out of nowhere? Did you look for it? Did somebody come to you because they saw your work? How do you end up on a TV show about photography? And talk a little bit about what it was.
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. So basically, it was a docu-reality travel show, and it was on
Docu-reality,
yes.
Good. All right, got
and
that.
it was on HDNet. Have you
Right.
heard of HDNet? It's now Axis Television, Smart Cuban station.
Right.
So through the weddings, a girl that I had assisted weddings, she was also a video editor. Turquoise Video Productions, amazing video people. And they knew that this producer was looking for a photographer for the show, and so she put my name to this producer, and I met with him and I showed him my portfolio from college. This is literally while I'm still in school. And he said, "Oh, you'd be great for the show. Why don't you come on and shoot for it?" So literally the show ran 20 seasons. It was a show called Get Out, and basically I got to be the photographer on this show. So I was shooting swimsuit models for a living for about 4 years out of
That's
college.
horrible. It's a horrible thing to do. Beaches, nice weather, right?
Yeah, it was unreal.
And so the show did very well, and did
did.
that put you on the map even more? I mean, at this point,
It did.
are people coming to your website, or did you have a website at this?
I had a website at the
when
time.
we met, you had a portfolio book.
Yes.
I remember we met at a WPPI,
Yeah.
and a guy named George Varanakis brought you in,
Yep.
and he said, "You got to meet this photographer." And what did I do? If I remember correctly, I introduced you to everybody there.
You did.
And then a noted ambassador, Nikon's Jerry Guionis,
Yes.
came up, and I remember exactly what he said to you. Do you remember what he said?
You got to remind me.
I will tell you. He said, "I hope you're making a living doing this. I hope you're making money doing this because you're phenomenal." And right there, we kind of knew that there was a really great connection with you, the brand, and us. So, and it's been quite a few years since then.
It's been
and
amazing.
we've worked a lot together.
Absolutely.
Talk about how you do something that's very important to you. Put the right people around you.
Ah, yes.
Now, I know you have referred to them as your dream team.
Absolutely.
And of course, I feel lucky enough to be adopted, or anybody from Nikon that comes on your shoot is
Yes.
adopted into the dream team.
Definitely.
Anybody here in this production room is part of Dixie's dream team right now. I want you to talk about how you build a team around you and how important that is for your business, and how do you know it's the right person?
Ooh, I love that.
You know, I know you hired a producer.
Yes.
You know, how did that come to be?
Yeah. One of the biggest things on building a dream team, I think, is finding people that creatively inspire you and that are on the same level that you are creatively. And for me, it took years. It took years. I can remember networking on modelmayhem.com, Facebook, and then suddenly I do this job with this amazing producer. It was a job for Magpul, and we did this 3-day shoot, this amazing shoot, and it just flowed so well. I had an amazing lighting person on
Is
that
that the
set.
calendar you do almost every year? We
Yes,
had
it
that calendar
is.
floating around the building. It's a gorgeous calendar.
Thank you. So that client was really a huge stepping off point for me. That was one of my first big productions. And I remember meeting this producer and this lighting person that I just really gelled with, and they really brought the best out of me and my photography. And so for me, that was like, from then on, I've worked with him on every single production.
And we are talking about?
Eric and Nancy.
Eric, I love Eric. Eric is probably one of the most efficient.
Oh yeah.
I mean, every detail he's got down. He knows everything. He teaches you things about weight and capacity and light and structure and where it comes from, and electricity, and why there's so much electricity on a certain block in Fort Worth. And it's almost like, I'm dating myself, but Cliff Clavin of a show called Cheers, who knew everything, but he brings his game every time.
Oh yeah.
And the thing I love about Eric, as well as everybody on your team, there's a lot of respect on set.
There's a huge amount of respect.
And everybody is called boss.
Yep.
When I was on the shoot, I was M-boss, you're D-boss, Eric is E-boss, and Nancy is Nancy Bear, right? You're
boss.
Producer. Talk a little bit about how you got connected with Nancy. How do you hire a producer? How do you hire a full-time or even part-time employee?
So I just, a year ago, brought on Nancy full-time. So she's producing all of my jobs. So she'll do the estimating, the invoicing, the hiring of the models, the having the food on set. She basically keeps this thing running effectively and smoothly. So I love working with her. She definitely inspires me creatively. And you know, it was a very interesting experience starting out and getting in the zone. But the truth is, in photography, you have to learn what to delegate. That is the biggest thing. And the only thing that you cannot delegate is the maintenance of your dream. That's the thing that you cannot delegate. You've always got to get that fresh and in the picture. And then you can delegate the other things like accounting and invoicing and the stuff that isn't creative, that isn't photography related.
But you got everybody to buy into your dream, though.
Yes.
Somehow.
Absolutely.
I mean, even though you can't, you know, pass off everything about that dream, you got them to buy into that whole philosophy of working together that way. Because I have been on all kinds of sets, and when there's a lot of ego involved, and there's a lot of animosity, and just like even just blunt ways that people talk to each other, it's not a comfortable place to be. And I think that sets a tone that even the models pick up on, which probably, you know, would probably destroy a shoot for the most part, or at least someone's not going to bring out the best of what they have. I would think in those environments.
Because that's really what keeps clients coming back. It's not only, especially in this industry where there's so much competition, it's not only the beautiful images you create, that's kind of like a given. Like, you've got to be able to deliver consistent, amazing images. It's really that experience and the client having fun on set that's going to keep them coming back and keep hiring you to create these longevity.
Sure, I mean, sometimes it's not about being the best photographer in the world, it's being about the best business person and being that person on set. I heard this a long time ago. Someone said to me about any kind of business, nobody likes the unhappy person in the room. So you always want to be the happiest person in the room.
Definitely.
So Dixie Dixon, she gets her FG, she goes on internship, she works with Matthew Jordan Smith, she goes over and works with a great fashion photographer. And then all of a sudden things start to shift in your career.
Yeah.
And you start to shift into directing.
Yes.
Now, you talk about delegation. I personally, you're talking to a guy, give me a sports moment, give me an action moment, give me a child running around, give me rock and roll. I want to create moments as they happen. Storyboarding is not my thing.
Right.
Where do you make this transition from going from still photography, how do you do that, to going to directing? What led you to becoming a director? And you direct TV commercials, correct?
I do, yes.
And I know we're going to load one up and we'll see it from my favorite company, everybody's favorite company, Poopery.
That's great.
But how do you become a director?
Oh my gosh, it was a really interesting process. I feel like so many things in my career have come up, and it's almost like me jumping into the deep end of the pool and figuring out how to swim.
Right.
That's what's so fun about this industry. It keeps you on your toes in that way.
Right.
So I had a production company reach out to me, and they love my fashion vision.
Right.
And they said, hey, we want you to direct this TV commercial for this hair company.
Right.
And so I was point blank told the production company, I'm not the client, that I had never directed a commercial before. And they're like, no, we love your vision, we think you can do it.
So it was about you, it wasn't necessarily about your skill set at that point.
Yes, exactly. So he said to come up with a storyboard. So I Googled storyboard, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Listen, you go to the Google. When you need to know something, you got to go search it.
Sometimes you got to use your resources. Yeah, so I went and storyboarded the whole shoot. I showed it to the production company. They loved it. And so we created this TV commercial, which ran on television for a couple years and ended up winning an Addy Award.
What's Addy as part of the advertising business?
Yeah, it's an advertising award. Yeah. So I thought, you know what? Directing could be a whole nother niche for me that I I've always kind of been excited about and curious about, and it sort of fell into my lap in that way just from shooting the fashion work that I shoot.
So I know we have this commercial queued up that you did for Poopery. It's about a minute and a half long. We have our producer Brian setting it up. Brian, can you run that commercial?
Bang, bang, boom. I won't be your waiting hand. I won't be your stepping stone. I don't need another man. I can make it on my own. I don't need you to be king. I know how to make my way. The clock is ticking. Time's running out. I feel it shaking. Oh, oh, oh. Can you feel the trembling? Can you feel the room? So tell me, are you ready? How do you like me? I'm gonna make you go bang, bang, boom. I'm gonna make you go bang, bang, boom. Bang, 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 boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 boom, boom. Are you ready for me? Bang, bang, boom, boom. Are you ready? Bang, bang, bang. I'm gonna make you go bang, bang, boom.
So Privy, is that the high-end line of Poopery?
This is the high-end version of Poopery.
So
which
what
is
makes
made
that
with-
high-end
it has-
compared to anything else you're doing to eliminate certain odors?
It has essential oils.
Essential oil. I'm sure the toilet bowl loves that.
They love that. Yep.
So you come up with a concept for this commercial. Do you ever sleep? Because I can't imagine. I'd like you to just at least explain a little bit about. They come to you, Poopery. They want to do this commercial. You've done still shoots for them before.
I have.
Now
yes.
you're progressing into the directing side.
Yeah.
How do you go through this process? Where does it start? When do you bring other people in? You make the production and then it ends. Take us through a little bit of that journey.
Yeah. So Privy or Poopery sent me some basic videos that they were liking.
I'm trying to keep a
fashion.
straight face when
I
you say
know it's hard to
Poopery.
say that
It
word.
is, but
and
that's
not
okay.
laugh.
But go ahead. So Poopery brings you in. Privy.
Yeah, so they kind of have an idea that they want to work with me on something, but they
Right.
don't really have a refined idea. So they send me a few inspiration clips, and for me, I have to go into a meeting with a concept, an idea to pitch them. And this concept actually came to me in the shower. When I was just kind of thinking, I feel like the best ideas always come through like meditation or
Sure.
working out when my mind is free to think.
Right.
And so it came to me, and I pitched them the idea, and they loved it. And then they basically let me run with it. That's really the dream as a photographer and a director, is for them to go with your vision and let you run with your vision and your dream. And that's very rare. Most clients like to sort of pigeonhole and
Right.
dictate a lot of the shoot. But
Did
this
they
was
cut
a
you
lot
off at all at any time? I
No,
mean, so they just let you go
they sorta let me
100%. It's
run
all
with
you.
it.
We got this. You got this. We trust you.
I mean, they definitely give some feedback and they change the direction of it just slightly, but they were really creative, and I feel like attracts like. It's a law of attraction at work.
Right.
I attract certain clients that sometimes give me a lot of creative freedom, which
Sure.
is an amazing experience.
So you're in the shower and you think about this woman that
Yeah.
has to go.
Yeah.
And she's got to go really bad. And she pulls up in a convertible. It's a very high-end thing, but she goes to the ladies' room, and there's a line of people, which I thought was brilliant, that they were all dressed exactly the same, which just kind of numbs out who they are, and it doesn't distract from her,
Right.
the main model, right? Are
Exactly.
you thinking about all these things as you do that? Because,
Absolutely.
I mean, one of my favorite parts is when the gentleman at the urinal turns back and goes, mouths a certain thing, right?
WTF, yes.
Yeah, and it just carried you the whole way.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about the use of slow motion in that, because something about that technique makes me feel more
Yes.
connected to the video. I don't know
Oh,
what it
yeah.
is, but so you use that technique a lot. And
We do, especially in fashion photography, because you can get the movement of fabrics and get the music going. That slow motion is key, and the Z7 is really an amazing tool for that. And we do a lot. Almost everything we shoot is in slow motion,
Right.
Unless we're shooting behind the scenes or something like that, just to get those small in between moments that the normal eye doesn't see.
And so we last year, under very covert operations,
Yeah.
worked together in the summer
We
with
did.
Z. And I can assure you all that when Dixie works on set, it was a brutal 4 days of shooting.
I wore you guys out.
You did, and again, I've never seen a crew work so hard for somebody. And even at the end, when you were looking for a donkey in the shoot, and we tried to go out to the fields and lasso a donkey
Right.
in this, ranch that we were
Sunset.
shooting in, and the
Yes.
donkeys would run, and I'm like, okay, well, give up already. You don't give up, do you?
I don't give up.
And you ended up with a donkey
the
exactly
end.
where we needed a donkey.
In 10 minutes before the sun went down.
10 minutes before the sun went down.
Yes, my crew works so hard. Everyone
Is it they're just
dialed
afraid
in.
to say no to you, or just do you ask so politely that they just can't say no?
Well, I'm not sure what it is. I just love that process, and when they're as excited about the final product as I am,
Right.
everyone just works together so amazingly. I mean, the thing is I think the true show of how people work together is you don't know who the boss is on set. Like if you were to walk onto my set, you would think, what is she doing? I'm not overly empowered,
I completely agree with that.
powerful.
Right.
It's more of an organic, like it's almost like a dance of how we all work together. And having to build the right people around you is really the main way to get that sort of feeling on set. Is that we all work together. We don't even have to say anything, and we can work together.
Yeah, I
so
felt that
easily.
on shoots, from makeup artists
Yeah.
to the stylists. Everybody's got a role, and even the models kind of play a role.
Yeah.
At times, and you've used them as they work as assistants to Eric, but they also work as models.
If they
and-
need to.
Yeah, which is great because I
Exactly.
think that kind of dynamic is what keeps a shoot going. So that's a good lesson for everybody, is to
Yeah.
find the right people, work with the right people, build that team, and leave the ego at the door.
Exactly.
And if there is that vibe,
Exactly.
you got to deal with it, right? Have you
do.
ever had to deal with a negative vibe on set?
I have.
Do you kick them in the butt and get them out, or
That's
do you
exactly
try
what I
to
do.
talk to them, or do you just give them a hug and maybe it's all better, or have you ever had a
know,
bad experience that way?
I've had some experiences where there's been, and it's never from my crew, it's always from the client. So with clients, you sort of have to dance around their ego a little bit, because obviously they're paying you to be there. And they're investing a lot of money in what it is you're creating. So you can't say, hey, dude, check your ego at the door. You can't say that to a client.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a matter of just kind of massaging it and getting to know them and what they're looking for. And sometimes I might take them aside and say, hey, we need to keep the positive energy flowing. I actually did that on a set once, and I talked with the client. And I said he was bringing a lot of negative energy to our set, and the model was feeling it. And he immediately stepped back and apologized and said, hey, okay, I totally get that. I'm going to let you guys do your thing. But as a photographer, like, anything can go wrong, but it's always going to land on me. Like, it's my final responsibility to say something if something isn't working or the makeup isn't working, because it's all going to fall on me at the end of it.
For every shoot
so
we've done,
you
I
have to speak up.
I have never heard you raise your voice, though.
No,
And that's just not a part of who you are.
it's not.
Yeah,
It's really
and,
not.
And I get that. And so I'm going to put you on the spot. And how was I as a client on several of our shoots? Did you ever want to kick me off set?
No.
Why not?
You
I
were
thought I was a
amazing
nasty
on
client.
set. Not at all.
Listen, again, during those shoots last year with
It's very
Z,
high pressure, though.
by the time we got to the last shoot at that ranch, it was, 105 degrees every
Yes,
day. You
and
don't
our
like,
crew
in that
was worn
environment, why
out.
didn't we shoot in a studio? But we had to be outdoors.
We did.
That was a brutal shoot, and I think it was tough on all of us. I remember us
was.
driving back. It was about an hour and a half back to Dallas or Fort Worth, and we
Yeah.
both broke down in tears.
Yeah.
So
It's an
not
emotional
always fun and games,
process.
right? I
It's
mean,
not.
we legitimately broke down, and I think we just kind of let it out at that point. We ended up getting coffee and some snacks and ended up home.
Well, when things are very under wrap, as you know, shooting a prototype, there's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure on
Sure.
set, because you don't want the word to get out. You don't want some person to randomly
was
walk
my
in
pressure on
and
set as a
see a
client,
camera
too,
that's
right.
not released yet.
Yep.
So for us, that adds like an extra weight of pressure that we have to deal with. So at the end of the shoot, we all got what we needed. Nothing, terrible happened or got released.
But I got to say,
beforehand.
though, with Eric on set, I
Yeah.
never have a worry.
That's true. He is on it.
I want to give a couple of minutes. I mean, this is going so fast.
I
could talk to you for hours.
know.
This is so much fun.
So
But
fun.
talk a little bit about your book. We have it here on the table, Fashion and Lifestyle
Yes.
Photography. Dixie Dixon. This is your first book.
It is my first book.
Why a book?
Crazy.
Why would you want to get into a book?
You
and how
know-
much did it take out of you along with every other thing you were doing? Because you can't just go out and produce shoots and keep working.
Right.
I know a book is a burden. How did you make it all happen?
It was tough. It was tough because I'm already strapped for time because I put everything I have into all my shoots. So for me, it was always the after hours that I was working, like late nights on the book. And I can remember the book company approached me actually at a trade show. And
So
they're-
somebody approached you.
Yes. I was actually speaking at the Nikon booth, And this company based out of London, they approached me and said, hey, we would love for you to work with you on a book project. And so I said, cool, that sounds really neat. So we continued talking, and they asked if I wanted a ghostwriter. And I said, you know, if I'm going to write a book, I'm actually going to write a book. Like,
So
it's
you
going to
take
be
this
in my
on with
language.
everything else you're doing.
Yes. I mean, I can't just, you know, half do anything. I always go all in. So for me, it was a fun process of putting everything that I've learned so far in this industry into something tangible that people can now read. Because for me, when I was starting out, it was hard to know where to start with fashion photography and breaking into the commercial industry, from like portraits and weddings to that then commercial industry. So for me, I put everything, my heart and soul, into that book. It was a really like therapeutic process.
So this book teaches, tells stories.
does.
So it's a little bit of everything.
It's
It's
a
not
little bit
just
of
a
everything.
storytelling book. It's going to teach
Yeah.
people as well.
Exactly, how
Yep.
to break into the business. And they just translated it into Spanish. So this is
Nice.
the Spanish edition. And I was excited that they didn't use my picture of me on the cover. I like this picture
Well, I
better.
don't mind the picture of you on the cover, but yeah, I
so
get
funny.
it. I get
Yeah.
it. Well, again, sometimes you want to present your art on the cover of anything,
Exactly,
and
that's
having
what
a
I
cover
love.
shot is what we all live for, right? I
Yes.
think. So you also partnered with somebody that wrote the opening of this
I
book.
did.
Who was that?
Yes, the iconic Kathy Ireland.
Kathy Ireland, model,
She is
swimsuit model,
amazing.
but she's
She
an
was
entrepreneur now. I mean,
she
she's a
is.
huge business mogul.
Yeah,
now.
she went to being on 13 consecutive issues of Sports Illustrated to now having 17,000 products licensed in the market. So she's gone from like
That is
being
one
supermodel to
crazy
supermogul.
important woman.
She is amazing. And I met her at a dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and I pitched her this project to work with her on some amazing shots, fashion shots of her, and it came together in this beautiful collaboration
Yep.
and art show. And so I ended up asking if she would write the foreword to my book, and she actually did it.
So
She
you're
is
sitting at a
incredible.
dinner. The famous Kathy Ireland is over at another table.
Yes.
Do you just kind of slide over and bump her and say, excuse me, or do you walk up to her and say, hi, I'm Dixie Dixon, and I'm cool, and I'm a fashion photographer, and I want to pitch you an idea, and that she
I
doesn't
didn't
turn
pitch her
around?
the idea at the dinner.
okay.
This is after the fact, but
But that's how you made the
um,
connection.
yeah.
And
We-
then you
I don't
talk
know.
to
We
her
just had a
enterprise,
really
all the
cool
people in her
connection.
entourage. I know she got a lot of people in her entourage
She
too.
does. She
But
does.
one of my great pleasures was going to your book opening in Fort Worth at
Yeah.
Fort Worth Camera, right?
That's right.
And,
Love Fort Worth
and she
Camera.
was there, and thank you both for signing my book. But
Absolutely.
if you want to learn a little bit about what Dixie does, this is a great way to do that. Now, again, we could do this for hours.
Oh my gosh,
And
I'm
we
having a
didn't-
blast.
We didn't go to the British accent once, right? Because we
didn't.
always do that on
We
the
were
phone. Why do we
rehearsing
do
British.
that? Why do we talk in British on the phone? Maybe it's just a cooler
love
way to
it.
go.
It is.
But as we do with every unscripted episode, we
Mm-hmm.
reach out to the people that follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Perfect. Yeah.
And many of them send in some great questions, some of which we've already answered so far, because we think alike, and we all want to know where you've come from, what you've done.
Absolutely.
At Vasha Photog
Mm-hmm.
has asked, what brought you success early in your career?
Crazy focus.
Yeah.
Crazy focus.
Mhm.
I knew that in my heart that this was my ultimate passion.
Right.
And nothing was going to stop me from doing that.
Mhm.
That laser sharp focus is what keeps you going after that dream, because it was such a passion of mine. So when you're starting out, just having that laser sharp focus and not like a lot of people, for instance, I actually got a job right out of college. I
Right.
applied for a job. It was because I majored in business,
Right.
and I ended up getting an investment job right out of college that I thought I was going to take, until my mentor was like, you know what, if you're going to do photography, now is the time.
Right.
Before you get locked in this lifestyle of this 8 to 5 job,
Mhm.
and getting the nice car and the nice house and all this stuff. So for me, keeping that real in the beginning
Right.
and not blowing a bunch of money and getting this 8 to 5 job was a jumping off point, because
Mm-hmm.
I figured out how to be in this business, because it's a hard business.
Sure
I'd
it is.
never know sometimes where the next job is coming from.
Right.
And so you have to be cool with that and in it for the long haul and that longevity. So I think just having that laser sharp focus and going for your dream is the big part. You got to go past that fear.
Mhm.
And that was for me, turning that down, that investment job was me jumping over that fear.
You've often said, and I've heard you say this a number of times, you're married to your career.
Yes.
I ask you every once in a while when I call you, who you two-stepping with these days? You are truly married to the career. There's not a lot of other time for doing other things personally, is there?
I love it. You know, I've found a balance, and definitely in the beginning, I've been completely dedicated to this. And when you're starting as an entrepreneur, there's just so many things that you have to do before you're able to delegate the things that you don't want to do. So I've definitely been married to my career throughout this process, and I think I'm starting to find some balance now with being able to get away from it and come back to it a little bit, because I feel like that makes me more creative when I can go and take a couple days off here and there and get back into it. But there's definitely a balance there. You got to find what works for you.
When you take a couple of days off, tell the truth, are you bringing a camera?
Yes.
Your couple of days off recently was in Paris, right?
It was in Paris.
You went to Paris. I've seen you in Italy. You go out with your family. Family's important to you,
it's
right?
extremely important.
Yeah, I know. It's a great group you've been around, and I get to. It's a
is.
great pleasure when I get to hang with them over
They're
there.
incredible. They're my rock.
At W. Kerwin, what's the most important tip you would give photographers that may start their own business?
Ooh, definitely learn the business side. So you got to get your insurance. You got to get that dialed. I use TCP insurance. They're amazing. And so if anything happens on set, the equipment breaks, stuff like that. That's an incredible, important part. Definitely go after what you would really want to shoot.
Right.
You want to definitely go after that niche and show people what it is you want to shoot, and having that laser sharp focus. Gosh, there's so many things. I could just go on and on.
I think it's so important to just not just bypass. Learning business.
Yes,
is
learn
almost
the business side.
more important than being a photographer.
is.
You have
And
to
the
learn
marketing
how
side.
to find the money to pay for a studio monthly, or find money to
Right.
buy gear and deal with taxes
Definitely.
and amortize it and run that business by building it from the ground up.
Yeah.
And
it
it's
can
not
be-
just let me go buy a camera and lens, right? You're
Right.
putting a system together that you can rely on. If something goes wrong, you have your backups, right? I mean, how important is
true.
that?
Backup is extremely important.
Which makes me want to ask, what's your favorite lens? I'm sure somebody out there is going to
Ooh,
ask. If
favorite
you had one to work
lens.
with, what would it be?
Right now it's the Nikkor 105.
1.4?
1.4.
That's
of
my
course.
favorite lens, and Jerry's
Love
favorite
that
lens, and Joe's favorite lens,
It's
and Amy's favorite
everyone's
lens.
favorite
It's-
lens.
It
It's so
is.
amazing.
It was a nice dynamic to go
Yeah.
from like typically what would be an 85 millimeter focal length to 105 and then never
Yeah.
go back, right?
It's incredible.
hard
just
thing to
the,
do.
The compression and bokeh.
This is a
creates-
great question by @N8_Brown.
Yeah.
When you look at a picture of somebody, what's the first thing you notice?
Always
Now-
the eyes.
Yeah.
Always the eyes. For me, it's all about the eyes, because if you think about what you want to do when you make a picture, is to control the viewer's eye as it goes around the picture. So you want to think about the leading lines and all these things that draw that person's eyes back to where you want it to be in the photograph. And for
Right.
my photographs, I always go to the model's eyes, because I think that's a connection point. You can really see through the soul through those eyes. So I think that's important to focus on that, because the viewer is always going to go to the brightest, sharpest point in the picture, so the eyes better be sharp.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a little credit to @PhotoKafer,
Yeah.
Kaefer, because that question was, what's her most loved piece of gear? So you've answered that in the
Yes,
105, right?
105. Do you want the non-camera one?
Yeah,
answer?
well, at Brady, BRADDIE 22,
Yeah.
asked, well, let me answer this one first. How to make non-models comfortable during photo shoots.
Ooh, yes.
And then we'll
definitely.
finish off with that question you just alluded to. But
Okay. So the way that you can make non-models comfortable, do a lot of research beforehand. You definitely want to research the kind of music they like, what they're into, because that's going to instantly
you're going to
put
have
them
that
at
playing
ease.
on set when they come in.
Yes, always have that music playing when they arrive, and then always have some questions to ask them. So you'll kind of know what they're into to know what to ask them on set and create that sort of tone. And then the way that I shoot, especially with non-models, I shoot through moments. So I'll give the model an action, and if they're not, because a lot of people will just stand there, they don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's
so
probably the number one thing that is an issue, right?
Or you'll give someone else for them to focus on and talk to in order to create this sort of movement and more natural expression. So I may not get everything in the beginning of what I'm looking for, but I shoot through moments as opposed to posing. I don't do a lot of posing when I shoot.
Right.
So when you shoot through moments, you're going to get those split seconds where they look beautiful and natural.
Right.
And sometimes it may take 100 frames to get that shot. And that's the beauty of digital.
Thousands of frames on a shoot, a couple of hundred frames on a shoot, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter as long as you get
Because
the
it's
shot.
the one that you want. So what you're
Exactly.
alluding to @BettmanPhotography.com says, your favorite non-camera gear in your bag.
You guys would never guess this.
I don't know that I have a guess.
You don't have a guess?
I don't know. No, I don't.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what it is.
What is it?
It is a battery-operated leaf blower. And
All
you're
right.
like,
Okay.
what?
Now
What
I
is
see it. Now I
this?
see it. All right.
So I always like
Why?
to capture. Okay, I like to capture movement in the hair of the models.
Right.
So those huge hair fans are really tough to bring on location out in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
So we actually go to the Home Depot store and grab a battery-operated leaf blower, and we'll have that on set for the makeup artists to blow the model's hair. So we use them all the time.
So outside of us going to Brad Paisley tomorrow night at
Yes.
Jones Beach,
Yes.
what do you got coming up? Anything?
Oh my gosh, yes, lots of campaigns. I'm so excited. I'm shooting with
So the work is regular and it's still
the
steady.
the work has been non-stop. Doing a cool denim campaign and a beauty campaign coming up. So it's God, this career has been the most fun adventure that I could
But
ever
you
describe.
haven't even really started.
I
yet,
know. I
have
feel
you?
like I'm just getting started.
We're all just getting started.
It's
but
crazy.
So it's DixieDixon.com for the web.
Yes.
And I am Dixie
Yeah.
Dixon. I am Dixie Dixon for all of your social handles.
It is.
So-
I gotta have the I am in front.
Definitely check her out. Check out the work. If you haven't known Dixie up to this point, I know many of you that tuned in have known her, but if you haven't, really dig into her work. It's phenomenal. It just keeps getting better, and I have personally watched you grow, not only as a photographer, but a presenter at the various trade shows.
Yeah.
And I can't thank you enough for being here with us. This is,
Oh my gosh,
this is
this
a
has been
lot of fun, and
amazing.
it's so
Thank
exciting,
you.
and it's even better when we have a bit of history together that we can talk about and share. But I do appreciate everybody that has tuned in to this unscripted episode. We know from the beginning, our producer Brian said, if you go over a little bit, it's okay. And keep that conversation going. But we totally appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget the really great video contest, Follow Your Passion, at followyourpassion.com to get all the details. So if you are into video, definitely your chance to win some gear and $25,000. Trade Up to Z program is going on, so check that out at nikonusa.com. If you didn't see our first episode with Joe McNally, please go back and watch that. There's a lot of great insight that Joe gave us. And if you just tuned into a portion of this segment with Dixie Dixon, episode 2, you can come back and watch it in its entirety, and it'll be posted on Nikon Live on the Unscripted page. Thank you for your passion. We thank you for tuning in. Thank you again, Dixie Dixon, for being here with us. And we will see you next month with Christy Odom, a wedding photographer and filmmaker. Does a little bit of everything. She does wildlife, fashion, and wedding. And she is so amazing with movies and some of the things she's been doing with slow motion lately and wildlife. So tune in next month for Christy Odom. We appreciate you being here with us, and we will see you next month.